Hello and welcome to our backend stream.
Hi.
Today with me and of course Andreas. I'm jumping in for Tommy, not Tommy, Timo, because he has a rough voice. I don't know if you can say it that way, but yeah, he has the sexy voice today, so I jumped in. And yeah, Andreas, what are you going to show today?
Today we want to first finalize a bit our API. Last time we already extended the DTOs to include the detail information of the movies, but for the images we only provided one image link. And today we want to actually provide a thumbnail link and a full image link, so that you, the
Different
client,
sizes.
different sizes, so that you, the client, have the choice to what you want to display. That's one thing. And then probably we will get started with database integration.
Looking forward to that, because right now we have it in the client and it's a bit struggling a bit with syncing it correctly in all the screens. So getting it from the gateway would be good.
Sure.
Then let's jump into the code, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe a short recap where we left off. I have to get Quarkus started first. So basically what we did, we extended the movie detail, DTO, and now we provide more information. So Quarkus is started. When we have search movies.
I already see our new emote in chat.
Woohoo! Yeah, so for the search, we get some basic info for the client, because in the overview you don't need so much information. Yeah, so we see title, original title, description. We also have the release date. I think you don't use that yet in the client.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, just title and description.
Yeah, I will leave it in now that we have it.
Yeah, doesn't hurt.
Maybe you want to integrate it in the future. And also we have like this poster path. And here we also see we have the base path added, because from the movies DB.
But always original there.
Yes, exactly. That's what we want to change. Always we have the original here. So if we open that.
The question is if we even need the poster path in the list response, or if just the thumbnail would be enough there.
So yeah, let's have a look. That's the poster path. It's a bit big. I changed this to from Marvel. That's why it looks so different from what I'm used to. So yeah, so that's what we want to change. Just to cover everything, we also have the get movie by ID.
Thanks for the subscription.
Cool, thanks. So for the get movie by ID, we actually have the poster and the backdrop as well. So
this is now a bit fast.
Oh.
I cannot follow. So that was the movie DB API response or our response?
That's our response also. Okay. So again,
the detail one.
Yes, yeah. Detail, we have the base path added here.
Yeah.
And for the detail, we have the poster and also the backdrop.
Yeah.
And here we also want to provide like a thumbnail and the full-blown image.
Yeah, I'm not sure if for the backdrop we would need a thumbnail.
Yes, so that my idea was to basically provide you both always.
All the time, okay, yeah.
Then you have the full free choice, whatever you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also it makes it very convenient for me if it's always the same handling.
Then let's do it differently. So
no.
Okay, and then is it like an object below poster path that both are in, or is it just flat, just two?
Yes.
Attributes?
Yeah. Let's just jump into it, and you will see what I thought.
Okay.
So basically we can start with what? Let's define an image DTO.
Okay. So its own.
Yeah, its own type.
Yeah.
And here we have like a thumbnail, and we have original.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then in the detail, so we have the image DTO because this is optional because
Not at all.
yeah, not all have a poster.
Same
for the backdrop and same for the movie list item. So now also I wouldn't call this any longer poster path.
Just poster.
Yeah, same here.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always rename when the name doesn't match any longer what it means. That helps.
And then, as I got in the last room, IntelliJ will
IntelliJ renames wherever it is. Yeah, I have no idea wherever I used it last time, but IntelliJ will rename it. Okay. Now let's have a look here. Because from the API, when we search a movie, we get either the search results or our movie. And we get this and process it here in the MoviesDB service, which is our wrapper around the MoviesDB API.
Yeah.
Here we handle stuff like API key and so on, and also this mapping. So now...
so you put it now into the DTO between the DB and the gateway, the backend. Not
no,
the one that is
for now I put it in the endpoint, so this is like the client API.
Okay. Yeah.
So for you, but
Yeah.
not using it yet.
Okay.
So yeah, we also have to edit here. No, not here.
That would be my question. Do we have to edit there? Because that's what is coming from the API directly.
Right. There we don't get it, of course. But we have our model here, our internal model.
Yeah.
So here we would like to edit. So.
Yeah. But I would also question if we need it there and not only when.
So... Yeah, the thing is, imagine we want someday we want to use 2 different movie APIs.
Yeah.
Then the base path that we need for the image depends on the API.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
It has to be done here in the service.
Yeah.
Because afterwards, it must be the same for everyone, and afterwards it would be too late. Yeah. So that's why we add it here.
And we would need knowledge of the MovieDB API
again to know which path to map in there. Original. So that's why I added it here.
Makes sense.
Okay, then same thing here. And also rename.
Yeah, but that's always the thing that I don't like with this different models, that you have the same model basically 3 times or multiple times, and have
at the moment it's the very same model very often, but maybe this changes in the future when we add more features.
Yeah, and it separates the concerns and
exactly
saves us later.
Yeah. Because maybe I want to change something here internally, but your API should not break, of course.
Or clients are already live and you need to keep the old API around.
Yeah, exactly. So in the service now, we have this to search result. And this is doing the mapping. And now we have here the movie search model. And here we should now pass in our image model.
Yeah.
And we have this method here to do this mapping.
Yeah, that's basically the one we had last time, and now we repurpose it.
Yes, now we have to change it. So one thing I would like to change is we pass in the optional string here. But we only have 1 argument, so we can also make this like a nice extension function.
Okay.
So not passing in the argument here, but extending string basically. And now we can use the normal optional calling here. And of course, here we need to return the image model.
And this works the same as on Swift. So when the poster path is not set, it doesn't evaluate anything behind it and returns nil in Swift. I don't know if it's also nil in Kotlin.
It's null in Java and Kotlin. Yeah, basically, yeah. When it's null, then just don't do that.
Yeah.
And now here we can get rid of all this optional handling. No need for that shit. So we have the image model here. And now, well, let's have a look at the base path. So we have it configured here.
Yeah.
And we have like the original part here. If we have a look at the API, where is it? Yeah. So in the movie API, here this part where we currently have original, we can set it either to original, or we can use W and then pixels for the width of the image that we want.
I barely remember back then when we tried it that not all W values are available. So they have just pre-defined ones. But I think back then we didn't bother further to get to know which sizes are available. I don't know if there's an endpoint to get this.
Yeah, there is something like a configuration I saw.
Well,
Logo
there are
size,
the
poster
sizes.
sizes.
Yeah. So
yeah, maybe in the future we will check this.
Can you call this in Postman just to make sure that the size we want to use is available for all?
Yes.
The configuration one.
Yeah.
My watch doesn't like me today. I already enabled Do Not Disturb mode, but
it's still disturbing.
Still disturbing, yeah.
The API key. I always forget that the API key is a query parameter. Okay, so for backdrop we have sizes 300.
So the 200 we wanted to use isn't in there.
Yeah, but it worked.
Maybe it chooses the closest then?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, let's see later. But it might make things a bit more complicated because like you see here for backdrops, they have bigger ones.
Yeah, makes sense. You usually don't need a thumbnail. That is what I said.
Yeah.
For the backdrop, you don't need a thumbnail. But for the post, on the other hand, they have the 92 one.
Yeah. They have a lot of different ones.
Oh, okay. So if 200 works, let's stay with that for now.
Yeah. Let's go with the easy way.
I see in chat as the question if we already have a kill switch in the app.
No.
The API changes.
Not yet, but that's always a good idea to introduce a kill switch in your very first release, because afterwards you have old clients that will never get updated. I mean, on iOS, I guess it's not such a big issue.
Yeah, but you still have people not updating.
Yeah.
But I always think then the gateway needs to keep the old stuff around. So that you don't.
That's why we will introduce a kill switch at one time. Be aware, client. Yeah, that's a good idea. So we're gonna need a bit more configuration. So the base URL, I will reduce it to like this.
Yep.
And also, it's like this.
Yeah.
And then we have something more. So yeah, like thumbnail, and we have the thumbnail width.
Or size, maybe. Just because it's called width.
Yeah.
Maybe size is a better name.
Yeah. And also we have the original size, which is original.
Yeah.
So basically it's just a part that we will add here. So the default auto formatter for property files is removing all new lines.
Yeah.
So
need to fill it with comments.
Yes. But it's also not so bad to add some comments.
Yeah. different API versions would also be an option for. Then you always have to keep the old version around. And
Yeah, and one day you want to get rid of it because it's just a lot of code. For example, if you have a different API version with different DTOs, because that's why you made the other version. So then you have all the old DTOs still lying around. You still have the mapping to the old DTOs. And it's just a lot of effort to keep them also in sync and also working. So in the end, one day you want to get rid of them, and the best way to do this is with a kill switch.
The poor apps getting killed all the time.
Yeah. So now we have this config here.
Yeah.
And we already saw how we can import like a config key. So we could just add more of them here. But actually that's not very nice. No, it's ugly.
It's a better option.
There's a better option. So we can define an interface. Like the movie DB images config. And we can add config mapping here. And now we can say the prefix for this config.
And you have chosen the same one for all of them?
What?
Yeah, you already put the same one to.
Yeah. By accident.
Yeah.
So of course we have the base URL here, which is a string. Then we have the thumbnail size, and I'm so used to data classes. There you have to add the comma in every line, and original size is also string. So now let's split this. If you might recall, we have the name here. It's not
camel case.
Yeah, it's not camel case. So usually if you make this a function, like this, then Quarkus can know that it should translate it to this.
Okay.
The problem, function is not so nice in Kotlin. You would prefer to use the val. The problem is the val is generated as a getter.
Yeah.
So when it's converted to Java, it's like something like this.
Yeah.
As a function. And then Quarkus will search for the get minus thumbnail minus size property.
Yeah.
So I just noticed this before, and I will probably ask for a Kotlin fix for this. Maybe they can add something to check this.
So for now, we need to rename our properties to get thumbnail size.
Either that, but that's always a bad idea to follow the flaws of your framework. Just request a fix. So we can use this with name.
Yeah.
Now that this is an interface and this is a value in the interface, it will apply it to the backing property. And we don't want that. We need it on the getter. So we tell Kotlin to put it on the getter, this annotation. That's also a bit annoying. It will also ask.
Straightforward.
Yeah, that's not straightforward. But this stuff is new.
But I see now it now realizes that this is used and makes it orange in the syntax.
Yes, cool.
Good.
That's awesome. That's good. So IntelliJ has actually support for the small array config stuff. That's awesome. Yeah. And now this config is available as a bean in our whole application.
What is a bean?
A bean is something injectable.
Okay.
So we can basically just inject it everywhere we want. Since this is a config and it's not like request depending, such a config, it's you configure it for your application.
Yeah.
Then it's an application scope bean, so it's just there once in your application.
Like a singleton.
Like a singleton, yes.
Okay. And you don't Quarkus or whatever is then creating the implementation of the interface.
Yes. So Quarkus is actually generating it on compile time. So there's So standard Java Enterprise, it would use reflection at runtime to find out stuff and inject code. That's slower because reflection is slower. Quarkus will just generate code for it on compile time and then use it. There's even options to say that this is a compile time property. And then Quarkus will inline this property into the code. But you cannot configure it then at runtime.
Later with the already compiled.
Yes. So maybe the base URL
could be something that
you want to change in runtime. Maybe if you have different stages.
Yeah.
Now we call an external service, so we just use their production stage. But if we have our own services, we might want to also call staging on staging. So then we would like to inject this. But at the moment for us, it would be totally fixed. No need to change it at runtime, so we could even make it compile time properties. But we're not gonna bother with that now. Here we get rid of that. We now just use it. And now it's there magically.
And the injection is happening automatically.
Yeah, Quarkus is making that happen. That's the magic. So now we need to use it here. We want the base URL. We want now we want thumbnail size, and then we also want this because we are in an extension function. So we have this is actually the string.
And from last time we know that this already includes the slash. I think.
Yeah.
So we don't need it there.
We have a look. No, that's that's so for example search movies. Let's add the slash here. Yeah, that gave us some headache last time. Okay, so
by the way, do you want to give it another try to auto snake case convert the
I tried it half an hour ago and it doesn't work.
Okay.
And I will have to open a ticket and complain about it because it did work in the past.
Okay, so it's not you doing it wrong, it's the...
Yeah, I actually checked in an older project and there it works. So I will open the ticket for it. They somehow broke it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but the good thing is, today we also, in the project, in the customer project, we had an issue and we found a reason, we reported it, and the guy that's the maintainer responsible for this part, he said, yeah, on Monday he will probably fix it.
Yeah.
And so in the next minor version, we will probably have a fix. So probably like 10 days or so. That's just awesome.
That's cool, yeah. Timo also encouraged me today to file a bug report or improvement request to Apple.
Yeah.
Because I want to do some SwiftUI stuff that is not working. So I did that. So
yeah, if you get feedback, they have the chance to improve.
Yeah.
And with Quarkus, I really made the experience they want to improve.
That's cool, yeah.
So here we also need to change this around.
My watch
is still calling.
Now I think before I wanted to swipe up to mute it completely, but that gesture was recognized. I don't know.
Okay.
Now it worked. Now it should be silent.
So let's check. I knew I forgot something. So in the
mapping for
in the endpoint, to the DTO. So again, we add an extension function. Model. So I think we showed it last time. This is just a shortened way of writing it if you have just a one-liner for a function. So this is an extension function on the class image model. So the image model class now has the function to response DTO, returning an image DTO. And the code is create a new image DTO and put in these values. And these values are actually coming from this. So from the image model.
Yeah.
You could also write it like this.
Yeah. Makes sense. So you now have the default like initializer, how it's called in Kotlin, for the, let's say, movie list item DTO, and put in, let's say, if you would have to map every property in there to another response object, you would have to put this to everything there.
Yeah.
I think on Swift, I would then create a custom initializer or constructor for this DTO where I can just pass in the plain values or even the other object.
Yeah.
Just have one parameter there, and inside then use the mappings.
Yeah, so if you want to do the mappings inside, you could still do that, because this is like the primary constructor here.
Yeah.
It's Kotlin's way. If you have only one constructor, you just write it here.
The data class thingy.
Yeah, that's the data class. But also normal class, you could just add the constructor here, maybe on the resource. We also have the constructor here.
Yeah.
This is just a neat way of writing a constructor if you just assign properties. If you want to add more code here, you can do that. And you can also like add them
from whatever DTO or so.
Yeah, you could add that, or you can also add other constructors. Don't know why it's not showing the autocomplete here, but yeah.
But you prefer doing it that way. So for me, it's like a very long line with a lot of properties or attributes in the constructor, and it's then sometimes hard to read later.
So one way, come on, it's not auto formatting.
Yeah. Then you have them all below.
Yeah. So this part here, like we did it with the Movies DB API, we can move it to a mapper class. And then you have one place where you map from model to the DTOs. And that's like the nice part about it. You have then one place where you put it everything. And the DTO is just a dumb data transfer object, nothing more. But of course, you can also put it in here. It's just one way of doing it, another way of doing it. With these extension functions, it becomes very nice to do it.
Yeah, but
to use it then at least.
Yeah.
Because here where I use it, I just say to response DTO.
But you could also have such an extension function on movie list item DTO and call it from response DTO and pass the other DTO.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's try again.
Let's see. And crash. No.
Now it's working. So, what did we change? Search movies. So we have now a poster, which has a thumbnail and an original.
Awesome.
And the thumbnail has the W200.
Let's see if it works.
Yeah.
After I found out that it's actually not there, but it's.
The question is, can I?
You need to translate the context menu because it was in German.
No. Can I see the image size here? Probably only if I download it.
Yeah. Don't know if you're prepared for that.
Nope.
I switched the scene. I don't know. Let me know when I can come back.
Yeah, you only basically saw my my games.
Minecraft. You can start a vote in chat if who wants to see Minecraft streams.
So now I just closed it again. It actually is 200.
Okay.
Interesting.
Maybe, but for that, the 200 was listed nowhere, right? Even not for the poster,
Yeah.
because poster had a lot of entries.
Yeah. This was in the config here. So
Poster size.
poster, yeah,
No,
200 was not
poster.
in here.
Why is it so like random numbers?
I have no idea. You are the client guy. Probably
No.
that's some client
So
sizes.
like 10 years ago, I would have understood 320, which was the size of the iPhone.
Okay.
The width.
So to just have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But these, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, back then you had like fixed layouts with static frames.
Yeah.
Because every screen was the same size.
Okay. Okay. Also, for the get movie by ID, we have the same. So here we have a poster and a backdrop, and they both look the same.
And a heart for Minecraft.
So
that's cool.
Yeah.
But now I have to redo the client. I don't have this thumbnail original thing in there.
Yeah.
And maybe the description thing, can we call it like, what was it?
No, not gonna happen.
I tried in chat, but you ignored me last time.
So yeah.
Now I'm here, but still no luck.
Only reasonable inputs will be recognized. Okay. I'm gonna make a commit, a quick one. Do
you want to show that as well? So no, too many other things around that. Okay. Because that's also interesting how you write your commit message, maybe, or how you structure it.
So now I just wrote a commit message SDSFF. So I will rename it later before I push it.
What does it stand for?
It stands for extending the movie API with thumbnail and original image. That would be maybe something. Yeah.
Okay, now let's get to the fun part.
Yes. So I heard you guys want to do some lists like favorites and also custom lists.
Yeah.
In the client. So we will try to build something for you in the gateway.
Yeah. 1 second. I see that you're a bit close to the camera and your beautiful hair is being cut off.
No.
So, yeah, that's perfect. Okay. Yeah, we need lists, and we would like to have the gateway store it.
Yeah. So we're gonna probably need a database. That's where the fun comes in.
In chat, they say when I said the fun part starts now, that I meant unit tests. Maybe also a topic we can consider
cover next time.
Yeah, makes total sense too.
Of
with
course.
All the mapping going on.
Yeah, but so we have some part where we could. So what we now have is very basic code, I would say. So the most complex part of our code at the moment is like this mapping.
Yeah.
Doing a unit test for this is basically like writing the same code that is here to generate the expected value and then comparing it.
Yeah.
So it's basically like copy pasting this code and asserting that the copy pasted code does the same as the original code. And yeah, you don't gain too much from that.
But how would we get 100% test coverage if we don't test?
Yeah, 100% test coverage. Everybody who asks and tells you about that, you should be worried. Because that means testing getters and setters. Also getting like a higher percentage of test coverage.
Also, you missed the documentation of your getters and setters.
Yes,
Gets
also
the value,
very
sets the value.
Not useful.
In university, I learned that you have to do that. Java doc for getters and setters.
Yes. But as everybody that started working for a while knows in university you learn some things that are very useful and some things that are not. And the most important lesson from university is actually to learn to differentiate between the important and useful stuff and the not so useful stuff, because that's also something you need doing work. Yeah. So for this, what we now have, I would rather do like in the integration test across all our layers. And we can do this with Quarkus very easily. So we can say start Quarkus, and we can then exchange, for example, the movie API here. And we can say, okay, this one, we return mock data. And then we ensure that the data that the client is receiving
is what we want.
Then we have covered all layers.
And we would also test the image URL thingy.
And we don't have to do 20 small unit tests for this code that's basically just passing around values. And also, if we, for example, refactor something here, we move some classes around, we move the map around, and so on. If we make unit tests for all this small mapping the same value into the same field methods, then we always have to change all the tests. If we have this end-to-end test, then we are still covered. And
I would say it tests the important part that the client API stays the same basically and still gives the expected result.
So a unit test I find really useful if you have something like an algorithm. If you need to match some lists and compare something and filter out some stuff and so on, then you really need a unit test, and it's easy also to develop the stuff. When you can even do test-driven development then very easily. You write down some examples and then you make sure everything is covered.
Also test the edge cases of your algorithm.
Yes. There it makes really sense and it helps a lot. Here it would just be a pain.
So let's do it.
No. Let's do it in another episode. We wanted to get started with database.
Yeah, let's do that. How do we get a database in?
So should we maybe first start with... Yeah, let's start with the database.
Start however you plan to start.
Yeah, let's get the fun part first.
So unit tests again.
I see you're having fun.
Yeah.
So it's usually good to be able to, when I check out a project, I want to be able to start it right away. And if you have a database or a cache like Redis and other services that you need, it's probably best to just add a Docker Compose file. I prepared that, to be honest.
Okay, yeah, I was confused how that
that was a bit fast.
Yeah.
So I usually add a Docker Compose file to the project, and when you run this, everything is set up.
Yeah, what is the Docker Compose file? What is Docker and what is the Docker Compose?
Okay, Docker is a container engine that allows you to run containers. So something like a Postgres, this here. This is a pre-built.
Postgres is the database.
Yeah, Postgres is the database. Postgres SQL. This container is pre-built, available on Docker Hub, and we can just start it here. With Docker, that's really a nice thing. You can just start it and it runs on your computer. No installation of your Postgres container and so on. It just runs.
It's like you said, container, so everything is in that. You just start it up and
it's all contained. So
has its own operating system basically. And
yes, it even runs on my Windows. You can run the Linux containers, for example, the Alpine container. I even used Alpine.
Yeah.
Which is a special Linux distribution.
You think like very lightweight something?
Yeah, it's very lightweight. So this is the Docker Hub page. Here's the Postgres container. It's also verified that it's an official image. It supports many different distributions and where you can run it, or architectures. And I now use the 14-Alpine, this one. So that's, here you can see the definition on GitHub. That's the Docker file, how the container was built. So it used an Alpine base image of this version. Then it does some Linux stuff and installs some things. It uses a Postgres version 14 and does some things.
The good thing is you don't need to do it yourself.
Yes, it's pre-built
all
here.
the stuff, you just use it.
And if we have a look here at the tags, even with the log4shell fixed. So we have the 14 Alpine here, and it has this is my architecture, so not clicking. It has like 80 megabytes, so it's really small, and you don't have to install anything, just Docker.
We have a vote going on.
Oh,
interesting. So you're a developer, do you test your implementation? Let's see.
I would say if you're not testing, you're not a developer. We're not testing yet.
Different, I would say. There also you need tests.
Yeah. But I think UI tests are a bit harder. Also, clicking through the UI is also testing. It's not automated testing, but it is still testing.
That's true. Yeah.
Also, what we did here, calling the Postman, the
testing.
API, is also testing. Yeah. Also, you can, for example, use Postman to do automated tests.
Yeah.
Okay, back to Docker Compose. So Docker Compose is just this file definition where you can add multiple containers. And you can also add like environment variables that are injected into container. So in our example, I can configure the database name, the user, the password.
Is this the environment variables I can set also documented in Docker Hub, or do I need to know them?
I know. Oh, of course, somebody closed it. So here what is Postgres? How do I use this image? And here you see, if you normally run it with Docker, then you have the -e for environment variables, and then here's the Postgres password, and you set this, and we just use the compose syntax for it. And there's also how you can connect onto the container and use the command line tool of Postgres and so on. Here's even
Docker
compose file. Yeah, and then a lot more details.
To use Docker and Docker Compose, do I need to install something on the system?
Just Docker. Yeah.
And it comes with Docker Compose.
Yeah. Then we have the volume here. This is basically, if I don't add this, the data is stored here in the container. But if I ever delete the container, then the data is lost. Which can be totally okay on your local machine because you delete it, it's gone. But you can also add this volume, which you also have to define here. Then if you delete the container and create it new using the same volume name, then it's still there, the data.
And the path is on your machine, or
no? It's in
the container.
In the container. You could also here in front of the column. You could also set a local path on my machine. Then my machine's directory would be mounted into the container. And I could then see, for example, the files of the Postgres.
Okay.
Yes. Up here, maybe this one, if the container crashes, just restart it. Also, we have ports. So Postgres always runs on the 5432 port. But I have many projects that I'm working on, and I have a lot of such database setups, and that's why I use a different port every time. So I don't get into conflicts when I quickly switch between projects. Then I don't have to shut down all the old containers and start new. Excellent. I can just have them all running.
Yeah, and now you just picked 7 at the front.
Yeah, it's just
because it was free.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. You can choose anyone. and this is the local the port on my computer, and that's the port inside the container where Postgres is normally starting. Okay, then we can just run this, and it is already started. And now we can connect to our data source. So IntelliJ, you can here open the database and data source, and you can go here to Postgres. Yeah, and if you have seen, there are many different things, Redis and so on.
And why did you pick Postgres?
It's just convenient. It's good. It's also something that's often used in production in real systems. Every major cloud provider also supports the Postgres stuff in their APIs. Always has a restart option. Always has the, so Moritz just asked if we want always instead of on failure for the restart. Always has the issue that when I start up my computer again, I start Docker, then I have 30 containers starting because they are on always restart, and then I'm blocked for a while. If I only have them on failure, then they only restart if I have started them before manually. So
now if you restart your computer, you would have to start it again with the
Docker
Compose file.
When I restart Docker, then first it's off, it's not running the container, and only when I then manually start it.
But therefore you have the Docker Compose file, so that what you just did basically.
Yeah, I can just click on the run config here and it's fired up again. Yeah, that's basically why I do this. So we connect on localhost.
With the other port,
Other port. The user is time user.
Very secret password.
I even wrote it wrong. Yeah, I mean, it's only running on my local host. It's not exposed, so I'm not so worried. Database.
So if next Friday, for example, we want to connect to this with the app, I would have to install Docker on my machine.
Yeah.
And then execute its Docker Compose and run the
Quarkus.
And I need then also IntelliJ to build it and install Quarkus and everything. Or is there
command line is enough?
Like a pre-built thing that you can just drop me over and I just run it?
I could also build you a jar that you can just run.
Can you put the gateway itself also in a Docker thingy?
Sure. We will do that later.
Maybe
not today.
Earlier, so that I guess just can set it up.
Then we also need to talk about the Docker registry where we can push it to.
Yeah, for now it is fine to just send it over to me.
Yeah.
Let's see.
You can also just check this out, this project, and run in command line Gradle. Okay. And you also get to feel the
feel.
The Java feel.
Yeah, okay. But then I have to install Gradle.
No, there's a Gradle wrapper in there.
Okay.
So you just have to use the Gradle wrapper and it will download it.
Okay. No excuses.
No excuses. Yeah, so we have the movie time database and we are connected. And in there is nothing.
Yeah. That is what I would have expected.
Yeah. So we want to enable Quarkus to understand database.
Yeah.
So we need to add an extension here, actually 2 extensions. These are the 2. We just add them in our build Gradle file.
Hibernate.
Yeah. So the first thing basically is JDBC with Postgres. So that's just a database driver.
What is JDBC?
Java Database Connector.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a standard how you can connect with Java to databases. And there's also like MariaDB and other databases to handle their special dialects. And then you could use, for example, just Hibernate. Then you have the normal standard Hibernate full-blown stuff.
What is Hibernate?
Hibernate is an ORM mapper.
What is an ORM?
Object relational mapper.
Yeah, just
I know.
to explain.
I know. You're so used to just using these words, but it's good that you asked. Today, I always use Hibernate, so I want to do something new. Also learn something on the stream. We're gonna use Panache.
Okay.
There's also documentation here.
Maybe let's explain with that. But if you need Hibernate to explain that, maybe you should really so in 2 sentences or what.
So Panache is also object relational mapper. So from SQL database mapping to objects that you use in your programming language, and mapping the relations between objects and so on. It just helps you with that you don't have to write SQL queries manually, that you don't have to manually map the result from the database into the fields of your object and so on. And Hibernate can, from time to time, be a bit complicated, a bit bloated. So there's Panache, which aims to make it simpler.
Okay.
So with Panache, there's 2 ways of handling entities. One way is to define the entity as an active record, it's called. So we define the entity class. This is now Java code. We add the entity annotation. This is from standard that it's an entity. An entity is something that is mapped into the database. And by extending this Panache entity, we get functions like find and so on, and list and so on, delete. So like predefined functions that help us handle.
That you always need, basically.
Yeah, that you always need. Stuff like persist and so on.
And this maps then to a table, I guess.
Yes, that maps to a table with basically the same name. So
does it also create then the table and updates it if I add a new property?
You can tell it to do that.
Okay, cool.
So for development, that's always cool. For production later, you probably want something like Flyway, which is a tool for applying migration scripts, so that you can knowingly migrate your database and only do what you really want to do and not have the automatism mess up your database.
You applied one wrong thing to production and the database is
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is one way. We're actually gonna use, here you see the operations. You have like persist and delete, list all the stuff you need. We are going to use the repository pattern instead. So here we do not extend from the Panache entity. Basically, the person is again more like a DTO, just data transfer object, super stupid. It only has some annotations. For example, these are used for the database generation stuff.
Primary key and so on.
Yeah. Exactly. And then we define a repository, which now extends the Panache repository. And here we then have the find, list, and so on.
Yeah.
We do this because we always want to have like a service around the database stuff that is combining the function, combining what multiple entities have to do, and abstract the whole database stuff into something that's enclosing it. So we never want the user or the rest of our application to actually use these active records. So we directly hide them behind here. So
would you then map again from the database person to another person that you use or would you use the same there?
So I would map. We also have in our gateway, we have the movie model. So basically here I would map to the movie model.
Yeah.
Because nobody else in the application, no other part in the application should be allowed to mess up database stuff. And if you always map it from something else to the database entities and back. And that entity is completely covered behind this facade, then nobody can mess it with it.
Yeah. So one more movie list, not movie list, but movie object.
Basically, yes. Yeah. But not totally.
Okay.
So now we added this. We sync Cradle that it starts downloading the stuff. Oh, I notice something. If we start Quarkus.
What is coming now? I need some like elevator music.
Yeah,
waiting for
that. That would be good. No.
What does it do?
That's not what I wanted to do.
You broke it.
Yeah. What I wanted to show is where's Quarkus? Quarkus. Yeah, now it started. We are running version 2.7.0. 2.7.2 is already out.
You need to update.
Let's upgrade. Just to show you everyone, there's the Cradle properties file. Here we have the Quarkus plugin version. We need to upgrade it, and also we have the platform version. Both are basically always the same. Now we sync again, and we get a new version. And I encourage you to read the release notes.
Yeah, but you as a fan already did that, and now
I know
it's
this
breaking
already.
nothing. Okay.
Yeah, but usually it doesn't break anything. Only sometimes. Okay, but now back to what we really wanted to do. We want to configure the database. And for this, there are...
So basically what you put in this IntelliJ menu.
Yes, exactly the same.
So that
it's also listed somewhere here. Yeah. So basically this. We have the Quarkus data source. So this would work the same if you use Hibernate. It consumes the same config properties. So the database is a Postgres, so it knows what language to use or what dialect. The username, password, the URL. And also here, you asked for it, we can tell it to drop and create the database every time we start the server. Every time might be a bit excessive.
Yeah.
There's also the update function, which creates the schema. And when you change the schema and start anew, then it updates the schema if it can.
Yeah.
Most of the time it works.
And if not, then it
complains, and then you can drop the database yourself or write a migration script. Yes. So I will basically use those. I prepared them already. So yeah, localhost, this part. So this config is something we usually want to change on every environment we are running this. So probably we want something like...
maybe a nice hint for you in chat.
Yeah.
You can configure IntelliJ to allow empty lines in your property files.
Yeah, but I know. But when I configure this, I also need to add this configuration to the repository, because the next guy opening the file also needs then to have the config. And if he uses a different IDE, then the config will not be there for him. So that's why I just add the comments. The comments are good anyways. It's actually some place where comments are good. And yeah. So what we can do, like we did before, we can add these environment variables. So when Quarkus starts and this environment variable is there, then it will actually use it. Yeah. But if the variable is not there, then it will fall back to this value.
I see. So that you can, when starting it,
When I start it locally, it just works.
and if you connect to a real database somewhere, you can put the
I can just inject the environment variables, for example, in Kubernetes. I can just inject them and yeah, are ready to go.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah.
But you then need to know that they are called that way, right? So there's no.
This one, you mean?
You just made this up right now.
I made this up. Yeah. Just later when I use it, I have to provide it, but I just make this up. Yeah.
Could you increase the font size? Is asked in chat. It's maybe a good idea.
Of course.
Much better.
Everything for the chat. Yes. Here now you see we have the update.
Yeah.
So you can make sure this never makes it to production.
Okay.
So if you apply this %dev, this config will only be used in the dev mode of Quarkus. So we always started with Quarkus dev. So in the command line, it would be like this. And now the dev mode is active. It's also writing this somewhere. And yeah, now it would use this. That's nice and comfortable for development locally, but you make sure it's never going to production.
And if I want now that in production it is another value?
Then when I additionally want it in production, I can do it like this.
And the dev would override that?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So what is the values?
None. In the comment it is none, create, drop, and create, drop, update, validate.
Yeah. So maybe validate to make sure it's the right one also.
Yeah.
Or just none. None is also the default.
Okay, so then that's why
you can just leave it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess if it cannot connect really, then it will still complain.
Then it complains. Yes. So now we have configured it, and now we can start using it. Not a Python package.
Why not?
Not in this project.
It's a machine learning.
No. I would rather like to test Kotlin machine learning, the framework for that, just for getting to know it.
Yeah.
But I don't really get into contact with machine learning at the moment. I have other projects. So we want to have lists for users. I'm very
user movie list repository.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell me a better name.
Why user? I would say maybe it's just a movie list.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, because I thought it's the list, the users list of movies, but yeah, that's also right. Okay. So now we need an entity.
So this is then the database model?
The entity, yes.
Yeah.
Here I will add it because it's a field, an important one. So first thing, entity.
Yeah.
Then we want an ID. ID is always good. Good.
Good, yeah.
Always good. For now, we're just gonna use a long.
Is it? The generated value. Yeah. So it's automatically.
Yeah. So with this, it tells the database generation script to add that it's an auto-generated value.
Is it then just increasing it, or is it like?
Yeah, it's just coming up.
So guessable.
Yes, but we're never gonna use this ID for the client.
Okay.
It's mainly here to show you.
Late in it.
Yes.
That means that it's like on Swift, you would have to set it on creation, but you don't have it there, but it will be there once it's loaded, and so do not make it optional.
Yeah,
you can do that. Ha!
Exactly.
Kotlin expert.
So easy. You also have a name. So we have the user, we have the name of the list, and we have the movie.
Yeah. Right now we don't have users.
Yeah, that's another issue. So I guess we will have to get users somehow.
Maybe for now we can just always have the same user ID or so, and assume that this user is
I think so too, or we provide it via a header or so.
Yeah.
Later we will implement some authentication.
Yeah.
We already talked about doing Apple authentication.
Yeah, would be interesting to see how that works.
Yeah, and then we get the Apple user ID and can just use that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for now, you see this is red, and actually I didn't know that. I found it out before. You cannot use late init on primitive types.
Okay.
So for Kotlin, this is actually an object, but in Java, the backing field is a primitive.
Yeah.
And that's why there's this limitation. And so for this one, we have to do something like this, which is super ugly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or could you make it optional as well? You don't want that, but that.
Yeah, because it should never be optional.
Yeah, it should not. Yeah.
We can actually also tell the database to not have this optional. Nullable false.
Mm-hmm. So that it does not automatically add if it's not if it's not an optional.
Yeah. You have to explicitly say it. Yeah. So now later we want to create objects of this, and we want to have it convenient, and basically the only things we want to set is user ID, last name, list name, and movie ID. And the ID is generated, so we don't care about it. So we want to add a secondary constructor.
Yeah.
So the primary constructor here has to be a no argument constructor, because Hibernate or Panache is creating this object.
Yeah.
And it fills in the values afterwards.
Yeah. So I guess that's also why you need the late init.
Yes.
That creates it empty, and then.
Otherwise, I would just make a data class style or everything in the constructor and be happy. So now we want to have a constructor with user ID, list name, and movie ID. And there it is. Now it tells me that that was the wrong.
Save delete constructor.
I need to add the primary constructor, and then I need to add this.
Aha.
So what happens?
It's calling the other one.
This is the primary constructor, and now this is first called, and then afterwards we are setting these values. So that's just syntax.
In Swift, you would have to do this call inside it.
It's just a nicer way or special way of writing it in Kotlin.
Yeah, there are quite a lot of special ways of writing things.
Stuff in Kotlin, yeah. Some are really neat and
I think it makes it harder to understand if you're not that deep into Kotlin, because you need to know all this.
Yeah.
So if just this would be called inside it, then okay, it's initializing first and then setting the values.
Yeah.
And there you need to know what it does. But you can guess it like I did.
So
now we have it there.
Can use it. What did I use?
User.
Okay. So now.
So so you said it's important to have the user there in as well.
It's not important.
You prefer just
keep it. I prefer it here because it's really, we have the user ID, we have the list name, and the movie ID. So it's basically just these three fields. Yeah. So when they are in here, I have completely described what's in
I'm thinking from that direction. If there's a user movie list, then there needs to be another kind of movie list that it
There could be,
requires the user movie list.
but
Yeah, to be safe for later.
yeah, we could also rename it
Shared
later.
movie list or something like
Yeah.
that. Oh.
Exactly, maybe that. So now basically what we need persists. So we can add a method say no idea about the name.
Yeah.
User ID name and movie ID. And since we have this nice helper functions, you could do something like this and user ID, list name, and movie ID. But I don't know even. Oh, okay, this unit. Yeah. So often you want to return the saved entity.
Yeah.
Which we are not doing at the moment. But at the moment it's also fine.
Yeah, if you would return it, you would have to map it as well, right?
Yes. But we will have to do that anyway,
Yeah.
since we now do the get movie list. List name. And now let's do list. Yes.
Shouldn't the movie ID be like a list so that you can have multiple movies in a list?
So what we are doing here, we only enter always, we make a table of user 5 has in his favorites list movie 10.
Yeah, like the relation table then.
Yeah, that's just a relation table. And the movies, so usually you would probably also have the movies in your database and then make a relation to them.
Yeah.
But we don't actually have them in the database. We just reference them from remote. So that's why we just have an ID and no reference, no phone
Yeah,
key.
but so if I, let's say, have 10 movies in the same list, I would have 10 times the same list name in the table with 10 different movie IDs.
Yes. So here now we can do the query, which would be something like user ID is this and this name. So it's just like an SQL part, the where part of the SQL, and user
The
ID.
question mark 1. There they come.
Yeah. So that's now a list of user movie list entity or optional of it. Okay, interesting.
Maybe if it's not there.
No, it's just list of entity.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
Okay.
Type.
But what do we want to return? Probably.
But now we come to that, because what I would expect is now one list entry with one name and one user ID maybe, but a list of movies.
Yeah. So actually I will just return the IDs of the movies because I don't have the movies here.
Yeah. Then I would maybe call the method differently. Get movie IDs from list or something like that. Yeah.
Something like that.
I'm used to have like proper English sentence function names, but it's fine to do it that way as well. And I don't want to change the name. It's
the most important thing is that you can read it and you know what it's happening, and you're right that this is more readable than the one I made before. So
it's also back from Objective-C, where the whole purpose of it was to have like a sentence to read what it does.
So
In chat, he must be an iOS dev. Yes.
So we have the movies, and we just gonna map the movie ID from this list,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and then we return the movie IDs. And IntelliJ complains there's no need for this variable here. You can also inline
Directly
it.
return it, yeah.
Okay. One more thing, we need to make this sum scope so that we can inject it. Again, this whole thing can be used all over the application, so we can make it application
Also
scope.
has no state or anything.
Yeah.
So.
It's not depending on the request also. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm just looking at the time. We're already 1 hour 60 minutes in.
Yeah. Let's.
So whenever. So I have time. I could do this forever. It's a lot of fun. But I don't know how long you want to go.
So we have our Movies DB service. In our resource, we currently use the Movies DB service. But
well, I lost. Where are we right now?
I went to the resource.
In endpoint. So that's what the client will.
That's what the client calls. So here we are using the Movies DB service, which encapsulates the Movies DB.
Yeah, and we need the other one as well. Then.
Yeah, but we don't want to combine them here. Because this is the endpoint, it calls some service, gets all the stuff and just maps it. But you don't combine data here.
Okay.
So
we need like a second level service combining the other two.
Yes. Let's call it lists. And make this the not Kotlin. So this will of course also be application scoped, and we inject the movies DB
service.
And we also inject the movie list repository. Then here we add our first get movie list for user. User ID.
What we did not have right now, I think, is get all lists, right?
Not yet.
No. So I would need to know the list name.
Yeah. So we want to return a list of movie, let's say, movie detail model for now.
Yeah.
We can talk about that later or next time.
Yeah, actually, so if we say one list would be what movies are your favorite, you want to get this also if you not request list or anything, you also want to know this if you just say search movies and inside the result you would want to know that something is in the favorite list.
Okay. Yeah. So that would be another thing that we can
but also like this service of services thing where you would do that.
Yeah. So now first we need to get our movie IDs. So the movie DB service, no, the movie, it's mean that it's called movie DB.
Yeah, that's true.
So we get we get the movie IDs.
Movie IDs, yeah.
And now we can, for all the movie IDs, we can map them and do the movie DB service.
How does this work with asynchronous requests and waiting and so on? This takes some time to...
Yeah. At the moment, this is all synchronous code. We could make this asynchronous if we add suspend functions. So suspend functions are the Kotlin way of doing asynchronous stuff and non-blocking reactive. Quarkus supports that from many extensions. But actually, I want to
Yeah, it's
reserve it for a
proprietary, yeah.
different episode.
But
So
what we could do, I don't know if it does it that way already. There's no way, so it does not have to wait until the first movie was requested, then request the second one, and so on. It could request
then
all
we
of them.
can change that. At the moment, it's doing it
One by one.
sequentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So my list with 1,000 movies would take forever to load.
Yes, at
Cool.
the moment, yes. But for example, you can also think of adding caching here.
Yeah.
Then if we ever requested that movie, and then we cache it for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So we have the movies, and yeah, we return the movies.
Bye, Timo. Have
Bye.
a nice weekend. Running a bit over time, but
Okay.
so what?
Yeah. So one thing we have here is our get movie by ID is returns an optional, because it could happen that
the ID isn't there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we probably want to do is just ignore those.
Yeah.
So we can map not null.
Mm-hmm.
So we remove everything that's null. And then in the resource, we can now also have it value. At this one, and instead of, let's do list or lists.
Yeah.
And
then
list
list ID.
name.
Yeah, yeah, list name, not ID.
Okay. Movies list. Okay. Movie list.
Yeah, we need like a list model with a name on it, so that the client knows the name of the list, not just a list, a set of a list of movies, but like a.
But you ask for a specific list here.
I would prefer to get an object having the list name and
Okay.
maybe the ID and then movies and then. Okay, you cannot.
The client always wants some stuff.
Yeah, it's
Sure.
much better that way.
We list DTO. We make this a data class. We add like the list name. Well, movies. Movie DTO.
Because then I can just rely on the response and have everything in there. And without it, I need to keep track of the name that I requested and then put it back in again to then show it to the UI at some point.
So when you ask me for a list, I can just return you another list.
You could do that, yeah. I don't care. I just show what the gateway is telling.
Movies list service. We get the movie list for user.
Yeah.
Let's use the Jonas.
Yeah.
And the list name we provided. And
the list name is now of type int. Maybe that's not correct.
No, that is not correct. Thanks. Fun.
So you would do the mapping in here, that it so the service is just returning the list of movies and not already the thing that.
Yeah, because internally we don't care about this list name.
Okay.
It was you requested this list from me, and the only thing I need to return from this method is the list of movies.
Yeah.
And here I know both, so I can combine it. Movie list detail, I think that was it. So actually we need to pass in the list name here.
Yeah.
And this is we do a movie.
But also would be good to inside the list, the movie, know the lists that movie is in, right? Not for now, but let's say I a movie is in multiple lists, and I say, give me this list, then I get the movie with that should have a list property which contains all the lists that movie is in.
Yeah. Okay.
Not for now. That's the simpler way for now.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
All these questions.
The movies you need.
Yeah, the movies. Yeah, actually we need this here. True response. Don't we have this already? Movie detail. We only have one of them.
The list. Yeah, because but I would say having the list DTO should be enough. Because if you have a list, then it can be the movie list model. Right? You don't need the detail, but you can add it.
Move to response DTOs. This will probably clash. Movie list of movie detail DTO. Map to response DTO. Oh, cool. To response DTOs. And what's wrong? Good. Movies list DTO. Movies list DTO. Oh. We have this.
Yeah, we have like the search result list and the user movie list. Call it user movie list for now.
What happened?
Magic shortcut.
Movies user list DTO. Nope. Not there. There.
Yeah.
And okay. So, in the interest of time, let's get the table and enter some data manually.
Yeah.
So I just start.
But you would need an existing movie ID. So that it doesn't skip it. Yeah, you just use that Captain Marvel one. That was this one.
That's a good point. So here now, if we refresh, we should see the table. Awesome. You see we have the ID, list name, movie ID, user ID.
Yeah.
So list name, Jonas.
Yeah.
Now it's stored. Let's add another for the fun. And another one for someone else.
In theory, not have the name there every time, and maybe we have some more properties that the list could have in the future.
Yeah, you would probably have an ID.
Yeah, and a list, list table with the name and
maybe, but if we write here an ID, a long ID, or
it's the same,
it's basically
for now it's the same.
Yeah.
But if I want to rename my list now,
yeah, then we would have trouble.
Yeah, and you could have like the user may, if it comes to custom lists, he by accident has the same name again for another list.
Yeah.
So
then it would make sense to have like the list ID and the list name additionally. You could make another table and have a relation between the list table. Maybe if it has more attributes.
Yeah.
Color, yeah.
For example,
yeah. Then it would make sense to have another table where you have all the list attributes and then just relate to it.
I have one more challenge.
Yes.
In the app later then,
yeah,
I want to reorder the movies in the list in the order I want to watch them.
Okay.
So you would have to store that as well somehow and make it update.
Then we add a nice column here.
Okay.
Something like this.
Yeah.
But
for now, that's totally fine.
Yes. So we have started. We have data in the database.
You could have to test it, instead of hard coding the user, add it as a query parameter so that you could now pass Jonas and Andreas to see different results.
Yes, we can do it. Movie. Movies, lists, tests. So we have Captain Marvel and we have Marvel Renaissance.
That's nice. Yeah. Awesome.
Now let's do user Jonas resource. Not Jonas.
Why not?
And
when does it add the parameter name and when not? So because in Swift you always have it in the function. It has it. It had it before where you hard coded the string, and now it's gone when you put the variable in. In IntelliJ, just add it there, like user ID.
This one here.
Yeah.
If it recognizes that this indicates that it's the same meaning, but for this now is just a string, so you don't know what the property is that you're assigning.
Yeah.
So then it displays.
Is it always so? If you would put in list name there and the property is called user ID, would it then show it?
Yeah. I think so.
No. It's not that smart.
Come on, IntelliJ. I'm a bit disappointed now.
I think it's just if you pass in a variable, then in most cases the variable should be named correctly. So it's then not shows it. But if you put in a fixed value, but makes sense. In Swift you don't have this, and then you have like user:user.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. So there's some smart thing about it for some use cases. Or for example, if you have points where you have X and Y coordinate and you turn them around, you put the Y into the X, then it complains, whoa, this is fishy.
That's cool, yeah.
Yeah. Because that's like the typical errors at least they cover. So Jonas, 2. And what was the other one? Me?
Yeah.
Marvel one shot.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I think that's it for today.
Yeah. 1.5 hours in. Still going strong, but I think we lost some viewers at the end.
What? What? How can you?
Yeah, it was too long. Maybe.
Finish.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it. Was really, really interesting. I hope I didn't annoy you too much with my questions.
No, it's all fine. It's all good because I think the viewers they will like your questions.
Yeah, I also think it's then more interactive and not just you coding stuff. It's more
because otherwise I get into the flow and run away and nobody will be able to follow.
Cool. I don't know if there are any questions maybe in the chat.
Yeah.
See a thumbs up. That's great.
They seem to like your questions.
Thank you. Wow. 1 heart for me. Thank you. Thank you. It's cool. All right. Then I do the usual telling what the next streams are. Next week, Wednesday, we have the game development stream with Tommy and myself. And next Friday, we wanted to use the finished gateway on the iOS app, but not there
I
yet.
mean, you can get the movies already.
Yeah, we can that's maybe a good idea to try to get it running, connect to it. So iOS next Friday. Hashtag Tommy rocks.
Yeah, that's true.
And also hashtag Christian's mustache or something like that.
Yeah.
We need that as well.
Yeah, we need an emoji for Christian's mustache.
That's an awesome idea. Yeah.
That we need. Maybe an Aconsis logo with a mustache.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, and we, for the backend stream, we will be back in 2 weeks in the same time slot, in the usual period now again.
Then maybe again with Timo.
Yes.
If his voice is better.
Hopefully.
We will see this next Friday also already. Okay.
Have a nice day and a nice weekend.
Bye.
Bye, guys.